The buzzing from the old fluorescent light was the only sound left in the office. It was almost midnight. The rain outside hit the glass like soft fingertips, and Simone Carter was still at her desk, trying to finish a stack of invoices that wouldn't stop growing. She was exhausted. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. Her phone was dead. But she stayed anyway, because that's what she always did. She pushed through. She always pushed through. Simone was a veterinarian, 32, single mom, and owner of a small animal clinic she'd built from nothing. Every inch of that clinic, every scratched table, every rescued animal, it meant something to her. It was her dream, her pride, her proof that hard work could actually lead somewhere. But tonight, something was off. The air felt wrong. And then she heard it. The soft click of the conference room door unlocking. She looked up. 4 men stepped inside, dressed in black suits. No smiles, no words, just eyes that scanned the room like they already owned it. Simone's stomach dropped, and then the last man walked in. He wasn't like the others. Tall, calm, sharp eyes the color of winter smoke. His name was Victor Holloway, a name that carried power, money, and fear. He was the kind of man people whispered about in this city, the kind of man whose name made police officers look the other way. "Simone Carter," he said, like he was greeting an old friend. "Working late again. I like that." She straightened slowly, pretending her hands weren't trembling. "This is private property," she said. "You can't just—" Victor smiled. Not kindly, more like a wolf who'd found something interesting. "Oh, I can," he said. "And I just did." One of his men placed a black folder on her desk and opened it. A single photograph slid out. It was her son, 8 years old, laughing on a carousel. The picture had been taken that same afternoon. Simone's throat went dry. "Where did you get that?" Victor didn't answer. He just took a slow step closer. "You've made quite a name for yourself, Dr. Carter," he said. "You save animals no one else will touch. You run a clinic the city actually respects. You care too much, work too hard, and don't know when to quit." He leaned against her desk, voice calm and quiet. "And that's exactly why I need you." She swallowed. "Need me for what?" Victor smiled again, that cold, perfect smile. "Let's not make this complicated," he said. "You're going to do something for me, a small favor, and in return, you and your boy stay safe." Simone's pulse hammered in her ears. "And if I say no?" Victor's voice dropped low. Then he said the words that froze her to the floor. "She belongs to me," he said. "And if you try to take her from me, you won't live another day." The room went silent. Even the rain seemed to stop against the glass. Simone didn't move. She just stood there, hands flat on the desk, staring at the man who thought he could own her. In that moment, she wasn't just tired anymore. She was furious. She didn't know how she'd fight back yet, but one thing was clear. She would not let this man win. If you were in Simone's shoes, cornered, threatened, with everything you love on the line, what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your take. Hey, before we continue, if you're feeling the story so far, please tap that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who loves deep stories too. And let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Now let's return to the moment everything changed. The next morning the rain was gone, but the storm inside Simone hadn't stopped. She barely slept. Every creak in the hallway, every shadow by her window felt like eyes watching her. By the time sunlight spilled through the blinds, she was already dressed and pacing. Her hands shook as she poured coffee she wouldn't drink. Her son Malik came out of his room rubbing his eyes. He was 8, all curls and curiosity, still half asleep and clutching his favorite blue backpack. "Mom, you okay?" he asked. Simone forced a smile. "Yeah, baby, just tired." She tied his shoelaces, packed his lunch, and kissed his forehead longer than usual, before sending him off with the neighbor who dropped him at school every morning. Only when the door closed did her smile vanish. Her heart pounded like a trapped bird. Victor Holloway. She couldn't shake his face. That cold smile, the picture of Malik sliding across her desk. He knew where her son went to school. He knew her routines, her clinic, her life. And worst of all, she had no idea what he actually wanted. Simone ran a hand through her curls and grabbed her phone. Dozens of missed calls from clients, messages from staff, and one new text from an unknown number. It only said, "Don't be late, noon, your clinic." Her stomach turned. She knew it was him. The Cross Creek Animal Clinic sat at the edge of downtown. Part rescue center, part medical facility, part miracle on a shoestring budget. Simone had built it from the ground up with grit, sweat, and too many sleepless nights. She'd spent years fighting banks, skeptical investors, and bureaucrats who didn't take a black woman in veterinary medicine seriously. But she'd done it. Her clinic was her pride, her second home, her proof that she'd made something good out of a hard life. As she drove, her hands stayed tight on the wheel. She kept checking the mirror, half expecting a black car to be following her. By the time she pulled into the clinic's parking lot, her chest was tight enough to ache. Inside, her small staff moved through their morning routine, feeding the macaw, checking on the iguana, changing bandages on a recovering pit bull. They smiled when they saw her, unaware of the war raging behind her calm expression. "Morning, Dr. Carter," her assistant Denise called. "We've got a new intake. Injured falcon from wildlife control." Simone nodded, forcing a steady tone. "Okay, I'll check on it in a minute." But her heart wasn't in it, because standing by her office door, wearing another perfect suit and that same unsettling calm, was Victor Holloway. He didn't belong here, not in this bright, living place full of animals and kindness. He looked like a storm cloud dropped into sunlight. "Good morning, doctor," he said, like nothing had happened, like last night's threat had been a polite conversation over tea. Simone glanced around, staff nearby, clients in the waiting room. She couldn't make a scene. "What do you want?" she whispered through clenched teeth. Victor smiled faintly. "A partnership. You and me." "You mean blackmail," she shot back. He chuckled softly, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve. "You make it sound so ugly. I prefer opportunity. You see, I need someone who can handle delicate things. Rare animals, exotic shipments. Someone whose name is trusted by customs and the government." Her stomach dropped. "You're trafficking." He tilted his head. "Such an ugly word for business. These animals are valuable, and they need a doctor, one who can sign certificates, make sure the paperwork looks clean." Simone shook her head, voice low but sharp. "You're out of your mind. I would never—" "You will," he interrupted. "Because if you don't, that little boy of yours won't make it home from school." The words hit her like a slap. Her breath caught in her throat. Every instinct screamed to fight, to yell, to throw him out. But Malik's face flashed before her eyes, and fear froze her in place. Victor leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Sign off on a few shipments, that's all. No one gets hurt. You keep your clinic, your reputation, your son. Everybody wins." She forced herself to breathe. "And if I refuse?" Victor's smile disappeared. "Then everyone loses." He turned and walked out as casually as he'd walked in, leaving behind a silence that seemed to stick to the walls. Denise appeared a moment later, holding a clipboard. "You okay, Doc? You look pale." Simone blinked, trying to refocus. Yeah, I'm fine." She wasn't. She was terrified. That night, the clinic felt different. Every sound, the hum of the freezers, the rustle of animals, made her flinch. The neon sign outside cast a red glow across the empty waiting room, and Simone sat alone at her desk, staring at the papers Victor had left behind. Shipping manifests, health certificates, legal forms, all fake. Her name was already printed at the bottom, waiting for her signature. She picked up the pen, and her hand trembled. She thought of her son, his small laugh, his messy room, his future. She thought of all the animals she'd saved, the people who trusted her. She thought of the kind of woman she wanted to be. Then she dropped the pen. Her voice was quiet but fierce. "No, not like this." She shoved the papers into a drawer and locked it. If Victor wanted her signature, he'd have to take it by force. And somewhere in the dark, she didn't know that someone else had been watching. A man with gray eyes and a voice like calm thunder. Someone Victor shouldn't have crossed. Someone who, by morning, would change everything. If you were Simone, watching your whole world cornered by a powerful man, would you risk everything to stand your ground, or do whatever it takes to protect your family? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. By morning, the rain was gone again, But the tension hadn't lifted. Simone's hands were steady when she stitched up a golden retriever's paw that day, but her thoughts were anything but calm. Every ring of the phone made her jump. Every black car passing by the window made her flinch. Her staff didn't notice. To them, Dr. Simone Carter was her usual self. Calm, competent, gentle. The kind of woman who could coax a wounded hawk into trusting her. But inside, she was counting hours. Counting minutes. Waiting for the next message from Victor Holloway. It came just after noon. Her office door opened, and one of her technicians, a young man named Aaron, stepped in, holding a thick envelope. "This came by courier," he said. "No sender listed." Her heart sank. She waited until he left, then tore it open. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Her son walking home from school. Her son at the park. Her son asleep in his bed, taken through his bedroom window. Simone's knees almost gave out, and then she saw the note. "You missed your deadline. You sign today, or he disappears tonight." The world blurred. For a moment, all she heard was her own breathing. Short, shallow, panicked. Then something inside her shifted. Fear became fire. She didn't even think. She grabbed her car keys, shoved the photos into her bag, and ran. Traffic blurred by as she drove through the city, heart pounding hard enough to hurt. She wasn't going to let this man destroy everything. She wasn't going to live scared, but she didn't go to Victor. She went to the one person she thought could help her, Detective Noah Hayes. Noah had been a friend once, back when her ex-husband walked out, when she'd almost lost the clinic, when she thought her life couldn't break any more than it already had. They hadn't spoken in months, but he'd always told her one thing. "If you ever feel unsafe, call me. No questions asked." She didn't call. She showed up. When she burst into the small downtown precinct, she could barely breathe. "Noah!" she started, waving the envelope. "It's happening again. Someone's threatening my son. His name is Victor Holloway." The name made Noah freeze mid-step. His expression changed, from concern to disbelief to something close to fear. "Simone," he said carefully, taking her by the arm and leading her into his office. "Tell me exactly what he said." She did. Everything. The black suits, the photos, the documents, the threat. When she finished, Noah sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he said finally. "Victor Holloway isn't just some criminal. He lowered his voice. "He's connected. Deep. If he's targeting you, it's because he needs something big." Simone leaned forward, eyes wide. "Then help me, please. You know people. You can get protection for Malik." "I can't," he cut in, pain in his voice. "Not officially. Holloway has half the department on his payroll. If I file this report, it'll reach him before it reaches internal affairs." "So what do I do?" Simone's voice broke. "He's watching my son, Noah." He hesitated for a long moment, then stood and went to the window. "You need to disappear for a while. Lay low. Take Malik and get out of the city. Let this blow over." "And abandon my clinic?" "My staff?" she snapped. "That's my whole life." "Better your clinic than your son," Noah said quietly. "You can rebuild a career. You can't replace a child." But by the time Simone left the station, her choice had already been made for her. Because across the street, parked beneath the flickering streetlight, was a black SUV. The same kind she'd seen outside her clinic the night before. Two men sat inside. One was staring right at her. Her pulse quickened. She turned and walked fast toward her car. Her keys slipped in her hand. She looked over her shoulder. The men were getting out, closing their doors softly. They were following her. Simone didn't think. She ran. She sprinted across the parking lot, ducked behind a delivery truck, and pressed herself flat against the cold metal. Her breath came fast. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Carter!" one of the men shouted. "You can't run from him!" But she did. She darted between cars, weaving through traffic until she reached the opposite street. Horns blared, tires screeched. She didn't stop running until her legs burned. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get to Malik before they did. Back at the clinic, rain had started again, soft and steady against the windows. Her staff had gone home. The lights were dim. The building felt hollow. Simone burst through the door, gasping for breath. She grabbed the emergency phone behind the counter and dialed her neighbor, the woman who watched Malik after school. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. Panic rose in her throat like a scream she couldn't release. Then her phone buzzed. A new text. Unknown number. She opened it with shaking hands. It was a photo. Malik, sitting in a black SUV. Tears in his eyes. A man's hand gripping his shoulder. And beneath it the message, "You should have signed." Simone's legs buckled. The world went quiet. And for a long, terrible moment she couldn't even breathe. Then headlights flashed outside the clinic. Not one car, 3. Engines idling, doors opening. She backed away from the window, heart racing, whispering to herself, "Please, God, not him. Not now." But it wasn't Victor who stepped through that door. It was someone else. A stranger in a dark suit, tall, calm, his eyes sharp and unreadable. His voice was quiet but carried a weight that filled the entire room. "Dr. Carter," he said, "you don't know me yet. My name is Sebastian Cross, and if you want to see your son again, you're coming with me." If a stranger appeared right when your world was collapsing, claiming he could save your child, would you trust him? Or would you run? Tell me what you'd do in the comments below. For a moment, Simone just stood there, frozen. The stranger's voice was calm, steady, too calm for a man who just walked into chaos. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is Sebastian Cross," he said again slowly. "And I'm not here to hurt you. But if you stay here one more minute, Victor Holloway's men will. They're on their way." Simone backed up, gripping the counter. "How do I know this isn't another trick?" Sebastian took one step closer. "Because I used to work for him." He paused, letting the weight of that hang in the air. "And I know exactly what he'll do next." Simone's mind raced. Every instinct told her not to trust anyone connected to Victor Holloway, yet the stranger's eyes, gray, steady, tired, didn't look like a liar's. They looked like someone who'd seen too much. The sound of tires screeching outside snapped her out of it. Headlights cut through the blinds, bright and sharp. "Please," Sebastian said quietly. "We have seconds. You want your son alive? You come with me." He reached out a hand. She hesitated only a heartbeat before taking it. They ran. Out the back door, through the narrow alley that smelled of rain and oil. Simone's shoes slipped on the wet pavement, her breath burning her lungs. Behind them, the clinic door burst open. Voices shouted, footsteps pounded. Sebastian didn't look back. He just pulled her toward a black sedan parked behind a dumpster. He opened the passenger door, shoved her inside, and jumped behind the wheel. Gunshots cracked through the night. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Sebastian slammed the car into reverse and sped off, tires spraying water behind them. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Only the wipers kept a rhythm, pushing away the rain as the city blurred by. Finally, Simone found her voice. "Start talking," she said. "You said you used to work for him. What does that mean?" Sebastian glanced at her, then back at the road. "I was his fixer," he said. "The man who made his problems disappear. I quit 3 years ago, after he ordered me to do something I couldn't live with." "What was it?" He didn't answer right away. The silence was thick. Then, quietly, he said, "He wanted me to kill a woman. A doctor who refused to help him smuggle wildlife." "I couldn't do it." His hands tightened on the wheel. "So he sent someone else. She didn't survive." Simone stared at him, her throat tightening. "You're telling me he's done this before?" Sebastian nodded once. "He doesn't threaten. He acts." Her pulse thundered. "Then why help me?" "Because you remind me of her," he said. "And because your son doesn't deserve to pay for his greed." They left the city behind, speeding down a dark highway lined with pine trees. The rain eased to a drizzle. Sebastian finally slowed, pulling onto a dirt road that led to an old cabin surrounded by fog. "It's safe here," he said. "For now." Simone got out, still shaking. "Where's my son, Sebastian? Tell me he's alive." "He's alive," Sebastian said quickly. "Victor doesn't kill Leverage, not until he gets what he wants." Her voice broke. "Then we have to get him back." He nodded. "We will. But you need to understand something first. Victor isn't just a man with money. He runs half the city's ports, customs, security firms. His reach goes all the way to Washington. You can't fight him head on." Simone's jaw tightened. "Then how?" Sebastian met her eyes. by making him believe he already won. Inside the cabin, a single lamp threw golden light over dusty furniture. Simone sat at the edge of an old couch, hands trembling. Sebastian handed her a cup of water and a small phone. "I cloned the number that texted you," he explained. "They'll think you're still in the clinic if we play this right." She blinked. "You hacked him?" A faint smile. "Let's say I left his organization with a few souvenirs." For the first time that night, Simone almost laughed. A short, nervous sound. "I'm a vet," she said. "Not a spy. I don't know how to fight people like him." Sebastian sat across from her. "You don't need to be a spy. You just need to be a mother. And mothers," he said softly, "are the most dangerous people in the world when someone threatens their child." They worked through the night. Sebastian spread out papers, maps, phone records. He explained how Victor moved his shipments, how he used legitimate businesses to hide illegal trades, and how one wrong signature, hers, had become the key to keeping his empire clean. Simone listened, taking it all in, her fear slowly hardening into resolve. "Then we use that," she said. "We give him what he thinks he wants, and when he shows up for the real signature, we take him down." Sebastian looked at her with a mix of surprise and respect. "You think like someone who's been cornered before." She gave a small, bitter smile. "I've been a single mom for 8 years. Every day is a corner." As dawn broke, pink light filtered through the cabin windows. Simone hadn't slept, but she felt more alive than she had in days. Sebastian stood by the door, loading his gun. "You sure you're ready?" he asked. "I'm not sure about anything," she said honestly. "But I can't sit here while he has my boy." He nodded once. "Then we start today." He handed her a small earpiece. "Whatever happens, stay close to me. Trust no one else." She took it, slipping it into her ear. "What's the plan?" "We make Victor come to us." That afternoon, Sebastian used a hidden phone to send a single message to one of Holloway's men. "The doctor is ready to sign." They didn't have to wait long. 2 hours later, a black SUV pulled up to the abandoned warehouse Sebastian had chosen for the meet. Simone's heart pounded as she watched through the cracked window. Victor stepped out first, immaculate as ever, umbrella in hand, surrounded by bodyguards. He looked calm, untouchable. Sebastian's voice was steady in her ear. "Remember, act scared. Let him think you've given up." She nodded, stepped out into the open, and faced the man who'd taken everything from her. "Victor," she said, forcing her voice not to shake. He smiled, as if greeting an old acquaintance. "Simone," he said smoothly, "you came to your senses." But when he reached for her, something in his expression changed. He glanced past her shoulder and froze, because there, half in shadow, stood Sebastian Cross. Victor's smile vanished. "Well," he said quietly, "I'll be damned. The ghost returns." Sebastian took a slow step forward. "Hello, Victor." For the first time, Simone saw it clearly, the history between them. 2 men who'd once been brothers in arms, now enemies on opposite sides of a very dangerous game. If you were Simone, standing between a man who betrayed you and another who once worked for the devil, who would you trust? Would you believe the man trying to save you, or the one who swears he can protect you by owning you? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. The air inside the warehouse felt heavy, like dust and danger had mixed together. Every footstep echoed. Every second stretched thin. Simone stood perfectly still, caught between the 2 men. Victor Holloway, polished, poisonous, confident. Sebastian Cross, steady, quiet, eyes sharp with regret. They looked at each other like history itself had just walked back into the room. Victor broke the silence first. "Well, well, I never thought I'd see my favorite traitor again." His smile was slow and deliberate. "Tell me, Sebastian, did you miss me?" Sebastian didn't move. "I missed the part where you didn't destroy people's lives." Victor laughed, a low, amused sound. "Oh, don't moralize, old friend. You built my empire right beside me. Every dollar, every shipment, every lie." Simone's heart slammed against her ribs. "You worked for him?" she whispered. "You never said—" Sebastian's jaw tightened. "I told you I left for a reason." Victor's gaze slid to her. "Ah, so that's it. You're her new savior. How sweet." He took a step forward, his voice turning soft and dangerous. "But tell me, Dr. Carter, did he mention that the woman he couldn't bring himself to kill was his wife? The words hit like glass shattering in slow motion. Simone blinked. What? Sebastian's voice was hoarse. He's lying. Victor smirked. Am I? You didn't tell her about Amelia? About how she found out what we were doing? How she tried to run? You couldn't pull the trigger, but you still led me to her. Sebastian's face went pale. I didn't know you'd send someone else. Victor tilted his head. Oh, but you did. You just didn't stop me. Simone stared at Sebastian. Is that true? His silence was answer enough. Her chest ached, not just from fear now, but betrayal. You said you left because you couldn't live with what he did. I did, Sebastian said quietly, and I've been trying to make it right ever since. Victor chuckled. Slow and cold. And how's that going? You saving this one to make up for the last? The insult burned, but Sebastian didn't rise to it. He just met Victor's eyes and said, She's not another name on your list. Outside, thunder rolled, low, deep, like the world itself was listening. Victor's men fanned out, weapons half drawn. Simone's pulse raced. She could see the exit, 20 feet away. If she ran now, maybe she'd make it. Maybe. Then Victor snapped his fingers. 2 of his guards stepped forward, dragging someone from the back of a van. Simone's breath caught. It was Malik. Hands tied. Terrified. Alive. She took 1 step forward, but Victor held up a finger. One more move and the boy screams louder than you can handle. Her knees almost gave out. Please, he's just a child. Victor smiled faintly. Children grow up to be problems if you don't teach them early. He turned to Sebastian. I'll give you one last chance to prove your loyalty, Sebastian. Shoot her. Right here. End this, and I let the boy go. Sebastian didn't answer. His hand went to his holster, but he didn't raise the gun. Instead, he said softly, You really think I came here without a plan? A split second later, the lights exploded. The warehouse went black. Gunfire cracked. Shouts echoed. Simone dropped to the floor, covering her head as glass rained down. Someone grabbed her wrist, strong hands pulling her through the dark. She couldn't see who it was until they burst out the side door into the rain. It was Sebastian, breathing hard, bleeding from a cut on his temple, but alive. He pushed Malik into her arms. Go! Take him! Not without you! He turned, firing into the darkness as Victor's men spilled outside. Run, Simone! She hesitated just long enough to see Victor emerge from the smoke. His perfect suit streaked with dust, his face twisted with fury. Do you think this ends here? He shouted. You have no idea who you're protecting! Then she saw it. Victor pulling a small silver phone from his pocket, speaking into it. Seconds later, explosions lit up the warehouse windows behind him. The entire building went up in flame. Simone screamed as the shockwave hit them. Sebastian shielded her and Malik, throwing them both behind a car. Heat roared, metal bent, alarms wailed. When the world finally stopped shaking, the warehouse was nothing but fire. And Victor Holloway was gone. Hours later, they hid in an abandoned motel on the outskirts of town. Malik slept curled up beside his mother. Sebastian sat by the window, cleaning his wounds, silent. Simone watched him for a long time before speaking. Was any of that true? About your wife? He didn't look up. Yes. And you led Victor to her? His voice broke on the answer. I thought he just wanted to scare her. She found proof of his shipments, records that could have destroyed him. I thought if I brought her back, I could protect her. But I was wrong. He finally turned to face Simone, eyes raw with guilt. She was pregnant. I lost them both. The confession hung heavy between them. Simone swallowed hard. So that's why you're helping me. He nodded once. Because I couldn't save her. But maybe I can save you. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, too close for comfort. Sebastian looked out the window, jaw tight. We can't stay here. Victor's not dead. He'll come for all of us. Simone's voice was quiet but fierce. Then we go to him first. Sebastian blinked. You want to hunt the man who just blew up half a block? I want my life back, she said, and I want my son safe. If that means facing him, then yes, I'm done running. He looked at her for a long time, then gave a small nod. Then we end this. Together. If someone's betrayal cost you everything, but now they're your only chance at survival, would you forgive them? Or walk away forever? Tell me in the comments what your heart would do. The motel smelled like rain and burnt metal. By morning, the news was everywhere. Warehouse fire, unknown casualties. Simone and Sebastian watched the report from a flickering TV bolted to the wall. The reporter's voice was calm. Detached. Authorities suspect arson, but they both knew who was behind it. Victor Holloway hadn't died in that explosion. He'd lit it himself, just to send a message. Sebastian muted the screen. We need to move. He was already packing. Extra clothes, cash, a pistol wrapped in a towel. Simone stood by the sink, brushing Malik's hair with shaking hands. Her son looked up, voice small. Mom, are we in trouble? She knelt, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. No, baby, we're just taking a little trip. But her throat ached as she said it, because deep down she knew this wasn't a trip. It was a flight for their lives. They left the motel before sunrise, heading west along a stretch of forgotten highway. Sebastian drove in silence, eyes on the horizon. Simone stared out the window, watching the world blur by. Abandoned gas stations, rusted billboards, fields swallowed by fog. After an hour, she whispered, "We can't keep running forever." I know, he said quietly, but we need time to plan. Plan what? Something Victor doesn't expect. He thinks you're scared. We'll use that. She wanted to believe him, but fear clung to her like smoke. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the fire, the warehouse, the men with guns. She saw Victor's cold smile, and she kept hearing his voice. She belongs to me. You won't live another day. They stopped at a diner just off the interstate. The neon sign buzzed above the door. The smell of coffee drifted out like warmth from another life. Simone sat with Malik in a corner booth while Sebastian spoke quietly with the waitress, slipping her cash for food they couldn't wait to eat. When he came back, she asked, "You ever think about leaving the city for good? Starting over somewhere no one knows your name?" He looked at her for a long moment. Every day. But some things chase you no matter where you run. She studied him, the lines on his face, the tired eyes that held too much regret. You ever think there's a way back? His answer was barely a whisper. Only through fire. That night, they reached a safe house, a cabin deep in the woods, far from the city lights. Sebastian said it belonged to an old contact from his undercover days. No electricity, no phone signal, just quiet. It should have felt safe. But safety was a word Simone didn't trust anymore. When Malik finally fell asleep in the small back bedroom, she sat by the fireplace, watching the flames flicker. Sebastian joined her, setting down a stack of papers, maps, shipping manifests, bank accounts tied to Victor's name. These are his real operations, he said. Everything he's built depends on one shipment leaving the port tomorrow night. Simone frowned. And you think we can stop it? If we destroy those records, if we make the shipment disappear, he loses leverage, power, everything. She shook her head. And he comes after us harder. Sebastian's voice softened. He's already coming. Later, when the fire had burned low, Simone whispered, "Why me, Sebastian? Out of all the people Victor could have used, why me?" He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "Because you're clean. You're trusted. You make things look legitimate, and because..." He paused, eyes on the flames. "Because he wanted to punish me." Simone blinked. "Punish you?" Sebastian nodded slowly. "He knew I'd never come back to him. So he found someone innocent, someone strong, and put her in the same trap he once set for my wife." Her breath caught. "You mean, he used me to pull you out of hiding?" "Yes." The word landed like a stone in her chest. "So this was never about my clinic. It was about you." He met her eyes. "It started that way, but it's not anymore." Something raw flickered in his gaze. Guilt? Yes, but also something softer. And for a moment, the silence between them felt heavy with things neither dared to say. But the quiet didn't last, because just before dawn, the glass shattered. Gunfire ripped through the cabin. Wood splintered. Malik screamed from the back room. "Down!" Sebastian yelled, grabbing Simone and pulling her behind the couch. Bullets tore through the walls like angry bees. "How did they find us?" she shouted. Sebastian cursed under his breath. "We were followed!" The next seconds blurred. Shouts outside, flashes of light, the deafening crack of gunfire. Sebastian fired back through the window, covering her. "Get Malik! Back door!" Simone crawled toward the bedroom, heart pounding. She found her son crouched beneath the bed, sobbing. She pulled him out, whispering, "It's okay, baby, I've got you." They made it to the back door just as another explosion ripped through the front of the cabin. Flames burst up the walls. Sebastian stumbled after them, limping, blood on his shoulder. He grabbed the keys from his pocket. "Run!" They sprinted into the trees, branches whipping their faces, the night full of smoke and shouts. Behind them, the cabin went up in flames. Another home turned to ash. By the time they reached the car, Sebastian was pale and shaking. Simone tore her jacket, pressing it against his wound. "Stay with me! Don't you dare leave me now!" He tried to speak, but pain stole his breath. Finally, he whispered, "He's closing in. We have to finish it before he finishes us." Simone's voice broke. "You need a hospital." "No hospitals," he said, eyes barely open. "They'll find us there. Just drive." So she did. She drove through the darkness, the highway blurring through tears she couldn't stop. Malik slept against her arm, clutching her sleeve. Sebastian bled beside her, fading fast. And for the first time, Simone wondered if this fight, this endless running, this war, was already lost. Hours later, they reached an abandoned service station. She parked behind it, heart still racing. The sky was turning gray with dawn. Sebastian was barely conscious. His pulse fluttered under her fingers. "Stay with me," she whispered. He gave her a faint smile. "You're stronger than you think." Then his eyes closed. She shook him. "Sebastian, don't, please." But he didn't answer. Simone pressed her forehead to his shoulder and let the sobs come. All the fear, the exhaustion, the heartbreak, everything she'd held inside finally broke free. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt truly alone. She looked at her sleeping son, then at the man who'd risked everything for them, and whispered, "I can't lose both of you." And in that quiet, broken moment, something changed inside her. Fear hardened into fire. If the world wanted to break her, it was going to have to try harder. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, "I'm going to end this. If everything you cared about was slipping away, your safety, your hope, even the person helping you, would you keep fighting or give in to despair?" Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. The dawn was gray and cold. Wind pushed through the cracked windows of the old service station, carrying the smell of oil and rain. Simone sat behind the wheel, hands trembling, watching the sun crawl up over the trees. Malik slept in the back seat, curled beneath a blanket. Beside her, Sebastian was still, his breathing shallow but steady enough to keep her heart from stopping. She stared at his face, the bruises, the blood drying along his collar, and whispered, "You don't get to quit now, not after everything." Her voice cracked, but no one heard it except the wind. Hours passed. She stitched his shoulder as best she could with what she had. Vet supplies from her trunk, trembling fingers, and pure willpower. When he stirred, she pressed a hand to his chest. "Don't move. You're safe. For now." He blinked, half awake. "You should have left me." "I'm not leaving anyone," she said. "That's what he expects." She stood, pacing the small room. "Victor's been 5 steps ahead of us because we keep reacting. We run, he follows. We hide, he burns it down." Her voice hardened. "So we stop running." Sebastian's gaze sharpened through the pain. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to stop being prey." She pulled the folder he'd shown her back at the cabin, the documents, the shipping manifests, the evidence Victor needed buried. Every page had codes, account numbers, signatures, and one thing she hadn't noticed before, a stamped seal from her own clinic. Her clinic had unknowingly been processing his fake import papers for months. Her chest tightened. "He used me long before he threatened me." She flipped through the papers faster, searching, until her eyes caught a single line printed on the bottom of a customs form. "Holloway Holdings, Ledger B." Ledger B. It sounded simple, but her instincts screamed that it mattered. She turned to Sebastian. You ever hear of it? His eyes opened wider. It's not just paperwork. Ledger B is his backup archive. Names, deals, accounts, everything he blackmails people with. If we find that, we end him. Simone nodded. Then that's what we do. That night, she left Malik sleeping, locked safely in the car, and walked down the road until she found a payphone hanging crooked on its pole. She hesitated only a second before dialing the one number she swore she'd never call again. Noah Hayes. He answered on the second ring. Simone, where are you? I've been trying to... I don't have time, she cut in. You still want to bring Holloway down? He hesitated. Always. Then meet me, she said. Tonight. East Pier, Warehouse 17. Bring no one you don't trust with your life. Simone, that's suicide. She hung up before he could finish. Back at the station, Sebastian was sitting up, pale but alive. You shouldn't go alone, he said. I'm not, she told him. You're coming with me. He tried to protest, but she cut him off. You wanted redemption? This is it. And for the first time, he didn't argue. The city felt different when they returned. Quieter, meaner. Every corner looked like a trap. Warehouse 17 stood by the water, abandoned or supposed to be. They slipped inside through a side door. The air smelled of salt and rust. Sebastian found an old breaker box and whispered, If Ledger B exists, it'll be in his encrypted mainframe. He keeps backups here. Simone moved to the desk, her hands surprisingly steady. Then let's get it before he knows we're here. For the next hour, she did what she'd done her whole life. Focus under pressure. Only this time, instead of saving an animal, she was dissecting a monster's empire. When the computer finally flashed access granted, a folder appeared, Ledger B. She clicked it open and froze. Photos, names, bank transfers, politicians, police captains, judges. It wasn't just Victor's empire, it was the city, every single person he owned. Behind her, Sebastian whispered, Download it all. But before she could, a faint sound echoed, a door creaking. Footsteps. She looked up and saw shadows moving along the far wall. Too late, Sebastian said. Victor Holloway stepped into the light, his suit immaculate as always, his smile razor-sharp. Well, he said softly, you just couldn't help yourself, could you? Simone's stomach turned. You killed people for this. Families. Children. Victor shrugged. Power requires sacrifice. You, of all people, should appreciate the value of a clean signature. Sebastian drew his gun. Step back, Victor. Victor's eyes sparkled. Ah, Sebastian, you still believe you can atone. How noble. He took a slow step forward. But tell me, when you left me bleeding 3 years ago, did you really think I'd stop watching you? Sebastian tensed. You set all this up. Victor smiled. Of course I did. You think I didn't know you'd come crawling back for redemption? I just had to dangle the right bait. His gaze slid to Simone. And she took it perfectly. Simone's hand tightened on the USB drive in her pocket. She realized what he didn't know. She'd already copied the data while he was talking. Victor kept speaking, his tone almost gentle. Let's make a deal, Doctor. You give me the drive and you both walk away. Your son goes free, I swear it. Sebastian whispered. He's lying. Simone nodded. I know. Victor sighed. Pity. He turned to his men. Kill him. Bring her to me alive. Gunfire exploded. Sebastian pulled her behind a crate, returning fire. Bullets sparked off metal. The sound of the ocean pounded against the walls. Sebastian shouted, Go! Get out of here! No! She yelled. Not without you! He looked at her once, something final in his eyes, and tossed her his phone. Find Noah! Get Malik safe! Then he stepped out, firing, drawing Victor's men toward him. The last thing Simone heard was the echo of gunshots and Victor's furious roar. She ran, through the maze of shipping containers, through the rain and the sirens. Her lungs burned, her heart screamed, but she didn't stop until she saw the pier lights ahead. She ducked into the shadows, clutching the drive to her chest. It was over, or so she thought, because from across the dock, a voice said quietly, Going somewhere, Doctor? Victor stood there alive, a pistol in his hand, and a small tracking chip glinting on his cufflink. He'd been following her the whole time. If you were Simone, standing there with proof that could destroy a powerful man. But knowing he has you cornered again, what would you do next? Fight or hand it over? Leave your answer in the comments below. The wind off the water was sharp enough to sting. Rain whipped sideways, turning the pier into a blur of light and shadow. Simone froze. Victor Holloway stood 10 feet away, gun steady, his coat snapping in the wind. "Give me the drive, doctor," he said. "You've caused enough trouble." Her fingers tightened around the small metal stick in her pocket. The proof. The end of him. But only if she could make it out alive. "You burned my clinic," she said quietly. "You threatened my son. You killed people who trusted you." Victor smiled, slow, almost pitying. "You still think the world cares about right and wrong? People like me don't get punished, Simone. We buy punishment and sell forgiveness." He stepped closer, the gun glinting under the pier lights. "Last chance." Simone's heartbeat filled her ears. Behind him. The waves crashed against the dock. She could smell salt and smoke. Then, from somewhere behind the shipping crates, a voice cut through the storm. "Drop it, Holloway!" Victor turned, startled. Sebastian, blood-streaked, limping, somehow still alive. He raised his weapon with both hands, aiming straight at the man who'd destroyed his life. Victor's face darkened. "You just won't die, will you?" Sebastian's voice was raw. "Not till I see you fall." For a moment, the world held its breath. 3 people, 1 heartbeat, rain hammering down like a drum. Victor laughed softly. "You can't kill me. You never could." And then he swung the gun toward Simone. The shot rang out, loud enough to shake the air. For a split second, she thought she'd been hit. But when she opened her eyes, Victor was on his knees, shock written across his face. Sebastian had fired first. The bullet hit clean through his shoulder. Victor dropped the gun, clutching the wound, breathing hard. Sebastian staggered forward, pressing the muzzle to Victor's chest. "This is for Amelia," he whispered. But before he could pull the trigger, Simone's hand closed over his. "No," she said, her voice shaking. "We do this right. He dies in the light, not the dark." She turned to Victor. "You wanted deals and power? Here's mine." She pulled out Sebastian's phone, the one he'd given her before the fight, and tapped the screen. A message sent. Ledger B uploaded. To Noah Hayes, to the FBI, to every journalist in the city. Within seconds, Victor's empire was gone. Exposed, shredded, finished. He looked up at her, disbelief mixing with fury. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," she said. "Something you never could." Sirens wailed in the distance. Dozens of them, closing fast. Blue lights flickered over the water. Victor tried to stand, but his legs buckled. He sank to the ground, still clutching the wound, watching everything he'd built collapse around him. Sebastian lowered his gun. The fight drained out of him all at once. "It's over," he murmured. Simone looked at him, at the man who'd lost everything and still chose to protect her, and felt the storm inside her finally quiet. She walked over to Victor, crouched down, and said softly, "You said I belonged to you. You were wrong." Then she stood, took Malik's small hand as the police cars pulled up, and walked toward the flashing lights. A few minutes later, Detective Noah Hayes stepped out of one of the vehicles. When he saw Simone and the little boy beside her, relief washed over his face. "You did it," he said. Simone nodded, voice barely above a whisper. "He's done." Behind them, officers swarmed the pier. Victor Holloway was loaded onto a stretcher, cuffed, silent at last. Sebastian leaned against a crate, pale but smiling faintly. When Simone met his eyes, he nodded once. "Told you. Fire's the only way back." Hours later, the storm broke. The city started to wake to news of a man's empire collapsing, politicians resigning, bank accounts frozen, names exposed. Simone sat in a hospital waiting room, Malik asleep in her lap, listening to the hum of machines and the soft patter of rain. Across the hall, doctors worked on Sebastian. When they wheeled him past later, his hand brushed hers, just enough to say thank you without words. And for the first time in days, Simone let herself breathe. 3 weeks later, the city felt different, quieter, lighter. Newspaper stands carried the same headline everywhere. Holloway Empire collapses, dozens indicted. People talked about it in cafes and on buses. But for Simone Carter, it was already a different lifetime. She was back at her clinic. The windows had been replaced, the walls freshly painted, the smell of disinfectant mixed with lavender again, the scent of healing. Malik sat in the corner, doing homework under the soft hum of the overhead light. Every now and then he'd look up, check that she was still there, and smile. She always smiled back. Outside, the sun warmed the pavement, and for the first time in months, Simone didn't flinch at every passing car. The city was still loud and imperfect, but she was free. Detective Noah Hayes stopped by that afternoon. He leaned in the doorway, holding a small envelope. "You should know," he said. "They found Holloway guilty on all counts. He'll spend the rest of his life behind bars." Simone exhaled, a long breath that seemed to empty years of fear from her lungs. "Good," she said simply. Noah gave a small smile. "You saved a lot of people, Simone. You and that ex-fixer of his." Her eyes softened. "Sebastian?" "He's alive," Noah said. "Still recovering. But he's talking, giving us names, locations, everything. Turns out he really did want to make things right." For a long moment she said nothing, just stared out the window at the sunlight hitting the trees. "Tell him," she paused. "Tell him thank you." Noah nodded, left the envelope on her desk, and quietly stepped out. Inside were the items the police had recovered from the pier: a single USB drive and a photograph. The picture showed Simone, Malik, and Sebastian taken by a security camera that night. 3 silhouettes against the floodlights. At the bottom, Noah had scribbled one line: "Sometimes the truth saves more than it destroys." She slipped the photo into her drawer beside a stethoscope and smiled. Days turned into weeks. Clients returned, animals healed, laughter filled the halls again. Simone's life began to resemble something like peace. One evening, just as she was closing, a familiar shadow filled the doorway. Sebastian Cross. He looked thinner, the scars still visible, but his eyes were clearer than she'd ever seen. "You didn't think I'd disappear without saying goodbye, did you?" he said softly. She smiled. "Wouldn't surprise me." He chuckled, then grew serious. "I came to tell you I'm leaving. There's a foundation starting in Chicago. Rehab work for rescued wildlife. I can help them with security. Clean work. Real work." She nodded. "That sounds right for you." He hesitated. "And you? You going to be okay?" She glanced around her clinic. The bright lights, the charts, her son's laughter echoing from the back room. "Yeah," she said. "For the first time in a long time, I think I will." He started to turn away, but she called after him. "Sebastian." He looked back. "Don't run from the fire anymore," she said gently. "You already walked through it." He gave a faint, grateful smile. "Goodbye, Simone. Goodbye." And then he was gone. That night, after locking up, Simone stood outside under the fading sunset. The air smelled of rain and honeysuckle. She tilted her face to the sky and closed her eyes. She thought of the woman she used to be, the one who stayed late at the office, terrified of making a wrong move. And she thought of the woman she'd become, the one who fought back, who protected her child, who faced down monsters and won. Her voice was quiet but steady. "You don't own me anymore," she whispered to the wind. No fear, no shame, just truth. She reached for Malik's hand. "Ready to go home?" "Yeah," he said, smiling up at her. They walked together down the street, hand in hand, into the soft glow of evening. The city lights flickered on one by one, and the world kept turning, cleaner, freer, a little more just than before. And for Simone Carter, that was enough. Sometimes strength doesn't look like fighting. Sometimes it's just refusing to break. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after the storm, tell me, what helped you stand again? Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.